一番効いたのかなという感じがしております。で、これ当時の体制を
And here I made an organizational chart of the cabinet at the time. It was Prime Minister Kakue Tanaka's cabinet. Under him, there was Deputy Prime Minister Miki, Foreign Minister Ohira, and International Trade and Industry Minister Nakasone. As you can see, that was a cabinet loaded with heavyweight politicians. And secretary to Prime Minister Tanaka was Keiichi Konaga, who was going to become Vice Minister of MITI later on. He played a big role in the cabinet. And here I'd like to mainly look at Japanese foreign policies. In the Gulf region, at the time, there were only 3 Japanese embassies, one in Iraq, one in Saudi Arabia, and one in Kuwait. And there was no expert on the Middle East among the ambassadors. Mr. Ishikawa, the ambassador to Kuwait, was the only one who was knowledgeable about oil, but he was also responsible for Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Oman, because there was no embassy there. And Middle Eastern experts are typically called Arabists, who speak professional Arabic language. There were about 30 Arabists at the time in the foreign ministry. As early as 1960, there were elite Arabists as well. So inside the foreign ministry, to some extent, the Middle East countries and the Arabic language were regarded as important. And one more important thing to note is there were secret agents sent to Saudi Arabia. Mr. Hideji Tamura, former ambassador to Saudi Arabia, and Keiichi Morimoto, Middle Eastern trading industry, the president of this company. He was a former Arabist of the foreign ministry. They were sent to Saudi Arabia for negotiations. And locally recruited agents were Sohei Mizuno, the president of Arabian Oil Company, and Omar Hayashi, the managing director, experts of the Arabian Oil Company. They were also sent for negotiations with Saudi Arabian government. And on the MITI end, Mr. Nakasone was on top, and Natural Resources and Energy Agency was playing a central role in addressing the crisis. Just so you know, Fumitake Kishida, you see in the bottom of this chart, he is father of our incumbent Prime Minister, Kishida. And the problem of Japan's foreign policies at the time was that there was disagreement inside the government, especially foreign ministry versus MITI, specifically those who were pro-America versus those who were pro-Arab or pro-natural resource. And inside the foreign ministry, there were disagreements as well. The majority were pro-America, but there were quite a few people who were pro-Arab as well. And also there was a confrontation between the minister of the foreign ministry and the bureaucrats of the ministry. Especially Foreign Minister Ohira was said to be indifferent to the diplomacy with the Middle East. Before the crisis, Mr. Ohira did something to infuriate the foreign minister of Kuwait. So the foreign ministry had to make up for his screw up. So that's why there was a confrontation between the two. And Going back to the organizational chart on the previous page, Mr. Yamamoto, he was a manager of Middle and Near East section. He was leading the Team Arab, but he was also torn between the two opposing factions. That's the episode well documented in the many different books. And Japan was importing 80% of oil from the Gulf region, but there was no embassy in the Gulf region, like the Gulf region countries like UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman. And there was no expert among the embassies in the Middle East. After the crisis was over, the Middle East and North Africa Department was realigned, and the Middle and Near East section was divided into two sections. Today, it's Middle East Section 1 and 2. And this issue was not unique to the government. The media, as well as the Middle Eastern experts and researchers, had the same issue. For example, the toilet paper panic. I think everyone knows it now, but it all started from a hoax. I think that the media should have been held accountable for the spread of the misinformation. And the Middle Eastern experts like us, there's nothing that we could be proud of. We made little contribution to averting the oil crisis because there was almost no expert on the Gulf region. There were many experts on the traditional Middle Eastern countries, but there was almost no expert on Gulf states. And that's why neither the Japanese government nor the Middle Eastern experts were able to collect accurate information or make accurate analysis of the information. And Japanese oil companies operating in the Middle East were functioning as a conduit between the local governments and the Japanese government, but they had to secure their own safety. So they were also criticized for being a mouthpiece of the local governments. Based on this lesson, Japan Cooperation Center for the Middle East was established in 1973 to deepen the relationship with the Middle East countries, and the Japanese Institute of Middle Eastern Economies was established in 1974. That's the predecessor organization of my organization, IEE JIME. But the problem was Japan did not get the real intent of the Arab states. Japan did not know where they stood in their classification, and that's why we panicked. Of course, the cause of the Arab states was important to understand, but financial and technical support and assistance held the key to getting reinstated as a friendly state. And also there was no actual reduction in the oil import volume of Japan, so I had to wonder what the panic was all about.
で当時、1972年の時点ですと中東依存度が